Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Burch, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Burch, and today you get to hear from composer, conductor, and my friend, Dr. Brandon A. Boyd. You also get to see Miss Tina Sayers from Sing Democracy 250, as this is a follow-up to our last Sing Democracy check-in. If you remember correctly, in the fall, we did a whole, what is this whole Sing Democracy 250 episode? Then we got to meet with Michael, who was composing the song Us, and now we get to meet with Brandon, who's composing the song Redeem the Dream. And they are two of the pieces that are part of the set that you can get completely for free if you jump over at singdemocracy250.org and apply to be one of their choirs. There is no competition involved. There's no money involved. It's just getting more people singing. Now, friends, you want to listen to this episode for a lot of reasons. One, Brandon is super inspiring and tells the story of how he got into the world of composing. And it's really inspiring with some really good life nuggets. And then at the end, holy smokes, the thing that matters. So can't wait for you to hear that. Of course, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Perform International. I guess we need more people singing and more people traveling, and that would make my heart so happy. It makes my heart so happy that you're listening. I hope that you enjoy this episode all about Sing Democracy 250 and one of the commissioned composers, Brandon A. Boyd. Today on the podcast, we have our friends from Sing Democracy 250, Tina Sayers, and another composer, Brandon Boyd, on the show. Hi, friends.
Hi.
I'm so excited to talk to you, Brandon Boyd. Tina, it's always great to see you. I love myself some Brandon Boyd time.
I love you dearly. How about that?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is going to be such a fun conversation. Listeners, if you want to pop back, we have a couple episodes already on the podcast talking about the Sing Democracy 250. And when this airs, the application will be open. So you can be one of those choirs in the 50 states singing. Tina, do you want to say anything else really quickly about Sing Democracy before we kick it over to Brandon?
I think I just want to plug the website, which is singdemocracy250.org. And people can go there to learn more information about the program, to do an application to participate, or to receive our newsletters. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can find there. So hope people will reach out and get connected.
Yes, I love getting the newsletters, seeing what's going on. And it's been such a fun opportunity to team up with y'all and be able to share the story on the podcast. And well, I feel really
very appreciative to you for doing this. Thank you.
I just love asking questions and connecting people. And I think this is such a cool way to connect across all 50 states and with such great composers. And the fact that I get to question the composers, Brandon, I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
Okay, we have to start with the first question. How did Brandon Boyd become Dr. Brandon A. Boyd?
Well,
how did you get into music? All of those things.
How did I get into music?
Yeah.
The truth to this that I can put on recorded television is that when I was a little boy, we had a pianist at our church whose name was Mrs. Cora. She was pretty kind of old. And then all of a sudden, one Sunday, I come into church. I'm a little 8-year-old boy, and I see Miss Katrina at the piano, which is a maybe 30-year-old woman compared to a 85-year-old woman at the piano. I got a little bit more excited about piano. How about that? And so I took lessons from her, and literally, there was no joke. I remember her husband asked me one Sunday, "Are you interested in piano or my wife?" And I was like, 10. No, I was 10. I was 10 at that age. I remember that because he became like a great mentor of mine too. He was the organist, but he didn't teach lessons. So anyway, we had they just took me into their life, and yeah, that was how I got into music. And then eventually I was supposed to go to college, and something miraculous happened one day at a concert. The conductor thought I was someone else, and she brought me up to the piano, and the pianist didn't realize I was really a pianist. Like I really could play the piano. And she was in her 80s plus at that time. And I ended up having to play a song right on the spot, one that I knew that my high school did. And she realized I wasn't who I was, who she thought I was, kind of in the piece. But after that, she brought me up on the stage and said to me, where are you going to, no, what am I doing? And I said, I'm a senior in high school. She said, where are you going to college? Because this was a college choir that she was conducting. She thought I was her former pianist because I looked like him and I was in the audience, and she just kept saying, go to the piano. And I'll never forget the words of her collaborative pianist who said to me, please tell me you know how to play the piano.
I was gonna say.
And I was like, because if I didn't, it would have been nothing. It would have been nothing. But she offered me a full scholarship to go to college. And that's how I got into college, because I had not even applied to college. And that was February 2004.
What?
So that got me into college. And from there, all the things just miraculously happen in a lot of different amazing ways. But I will say this, there's one man named Jeffrey L. Ames, who is really the pivot. He kind of did something for my life and career that only he can take credit for. And that was, I applied to FSU to go to grad school, and SMU and some other places, and Luther Seminary, actually. And I hadn't heard from FSU and hadn't heard from a man named Andre Thomas. No email response back. He knows the story. But Jeffrey Ames called him and said, I have a student that you need to. And he asked Jeffrey Ames, does he play the piano? And he says, yeah, he actually does play the piano. He says, what's on your piano right now? He said, Sing Unto God from Judas Maccabeus. He said, have him play that introduction. And he said, play this introduction. Well, okay, play the introduction. He said, I have an assistantship for him at FSU for master's. And that changed my life, because I was going to go to SMU, and was no question about it. They gave me a partial scholarship. Boom, that's where I was going. So all of those paths, kind of led to where I am now.
Oh my gosh, this is I love this story on every possible level. There are so many follow-up questions I want to ask, but as you said, we are on live TV, and so I shall ask the good ones. Question number 1. When did you start singing? So you said you were singing in high school choir. You were at that event, called up on the stage to play piano. Were you singing in your high school choir? How did you find singing? Like, you started in piano, and you have great piano chops, my friend.
I don't think I've ever really. So in high school, I didn't sing that much.
You didn't? Did you play for your choir?
I did. I played for the choir. I was in my senior year of high school. I went to the community college for a program they had. I forgot what it was even called. Like your last year, you just go to community college and you take all your courses there, and it will satisfy your graduation requirements. And I was in a group there called Chamber Singers, which you know who the director of that group was? Corey Alexander. He was a doctoral student at the University of Florida.
That's so cool.
You know Corey, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Corey. So anyway, that was really my first real choir experience, to be honest. No middle school, none. High school, we had a choir, but I mean, nothing like a real choir experience like that. And that changed my life too, because it was kind of like, oh, this is a real thing. And I remember the announcement about this other college choir coming to town, and you should go hear them. And they were all Black college choir. And he must have put that announcement on the wall or something, and I ended up going. And so
life-changing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The most I ever sang was at FSU. I felt like I sang 37 hours a day.
I think that's part of the requirement. You must sing 8 kabillion hours a day. So how did you know that you wanted to end up at Mizzou? Like, how did you get from these amazing people, pivotal people in your life, getting you into these different programs? How did that lead you to where you are at Mizzou? And how did that lead you to composing? When did you start the composing process?
Well, I had never written anything in my life until I took Cliff Matson's class called Behavior Modification. And he said, I know. Oh, that's right. Of course you would know.
That was my life-changing class too. Okay, sorry, not about me.
It was life-changing.
That class is life-changing.
We got to talk about that more. But yeah, it was life-changing. So, as you increase one behavior and you decrease another behavior, I decided that I was going to decrease just aimlessly watching television, and I want to actually write some music. And so I wish I had the score with me. Anyway, in that class, I had never even turned on Sibelius or Finale, anything. And he said, if you want to do something, you just do it. And what happened was, I was like, I don't even know how. I have not taken an arranging class. I took an orchestration class back in undergrad, but it was, I think I wrote it by hand and had my roommate to put it into the finale. I think that's how it went. I don't remember. He would remember. But anyway, the thing about that was, I went to church that Sunday, and I remember that the church was supposed to start at 11 o'clock on the dot. The pastor or administrator said, keep playing, just keep making up stuff. So I'm like, we went on for at least another 6 minutes. Something happened, I don't remember. And I thought in that moment, while I was just making up stuff, playing hymn tunes, playing this and playing that I'm composing as I'm going. I'm arranging. I'm composing arrangements. So I took a hymn that I heard when I was at a Seventh-day Adventist church, and I called Praise Him, Jesus, our blessed Redeemer. I took that song and I went home and I started to develop it at a plan, like introduction, A section, B section, C section, outro, modulation. And I wrote this piece out, all the parts for organ. It's like a organ concertata, basically. I mean, it's just organ and choir. And I submitted it to GIA Publications, and it got accepted. And so for my extra evidence, I turned in a published score to Cliff Matson.
Oh my God. I would have paid so much money to be in your class and watch that experience.
But the best part about that is, you want to know the best part? So when I was in grad school, I lived in one of Cliff Matson's homes, one of his rented apartments that he allows graduate students to mainly. And I guess I had moved to Mizzou, and my first royalty check came in, and it went to his house. And for that piece. And to him, that was a moment of it all coming back. Like, you had never written anything, you wrote something, you got it published, and you didn't even get to enjoy your first royalty, which was $23.16. But that's okay. It was my first royalty check. And that was the first time I had written anything. So
okay, we just have to pause for one quick second, because you just said like 3 things that I think everyone needs to hear. One, that Madsonism. If you want to do something, just go do it. Just do it. And then number 2, you didn't wait for someone to edit, to tell you how to do something. You were like, I did the thing and I submitted it. Everyone's always waiting for like the perfect moment. And it goes back to the first thing, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? And then I can't believe it. You used it for extra evidence. That's amazing.
I know, because, I think, with that, I mean, you could say you did something and didn't do it,
Yeah.
I think what was the consequence was I had to I don't want to say that out loud. But anyway, I had to give money to a particular party if I did not do certain things that I said I was going to do, or spend hours that I was going to do it. And let's just say I did not want to do that. Okay.
We like sang for our extra evidence or something. Like, there was a bunch of master's students in our behavior mod class together. And we got together and surprised him by singing this beautiful piece. And he, got a little weepy like he does. That was our extra evidence, but we practiced so much on that little dinky piece because we wanted it to be perfect.
Perfect, right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, this is an amazingly inspiring story, my friend. So you end up at Mizzou. You have this piece. You got your first $23 royalty check.
Yeah.
How did that lead to where you are today, being one of the commission composers for Democracy 250? What else have you written, and how have you gotten to the point to be ready to write this new piece?
Well, I have to think about every piece I've ever written, and this is a blessing from God above. Literally, I think the only piece I've written, there are 2 pieces I've written that I've not been commissioned to write, and that is that first piece and a piece called Jacob's Ladder that I dedicated to Andre Thomas, which was the second piece I'd ever written. Every other piece I have been commissioned to write, and most of those have come from some connection to my greatest mentor, which is Andre Thomas. And there's no secret to the world that he is like a father to me and has been so incredibly influential. So I I got a little bit of this energy of wanting to write. I took a directed independent study with him
Mm-hmm.
on even this piece, that first piece. Like he and I talked about this piece. It was a part of that class that I took with him because I think I'd already said that's what I wanted to do that semester. However, he said yes, I could. But I remember him coming into chamber choir one day and saying, here, sing through this piece. It was I just come from the fountain. And I remember him the day before saying, I got to go home because I got to start this piece, just come from the fountain. And the next day it's done. And that to me was like, wait, you hadn't started and you did, and this happened overnight. And I didn't realize that it could happen overnight like that. And so that was part of the energy too of that. But I've had some other great, like, just today, like right now, I have in front of me a commission from Choirs of America, who Andre Thomas is the conductor, and he's suggested I be the commission composer. Those kinds of things have come from some of my just beautiful friends and mentors and people like that. And I do a lot of arrangements of spirituals, which I do truly love and did not recognize was such an integral part of my heritage. Just didn't know that until I probably went to FSU. I mean, I knew in high school that these were songs of my people or songs of my people's experience, but I didn't realize that they could be transformative. And as a music educator, they can also be extremely transformative for public school students, churches, community groups, professional groups. I mean, they really can offer their program something that is solely built off of this need for freedom in whatever aspect of life it is that you may need it in. And because that's where it's birthed from. But it's birthed from pain and struggle and blah, blah, blah. But it's just such an amazing, it's such I guess, a testament to what the American story is. And America's story, I should say, and good and bad and ugly. It's kind of like this. I tell people, I know you want to think grandma's perfect, but grandma is not. But grandpa is not. And that's America. They have lived and their story is true. And doesn't mean that everything that happened once has to happen again. And I think that's in all of our lives. We might have tried some things when you're young, and then by the time you get older, you made some better choices. Well, that's exactly what I think this piece, Redeem the Dream, is basically doing. It's recalling our life's history, and it's asking us, have we done the things we set out to do? Basically, And if we've not done those things, it needs to be brought up so that you are reminded. It's like a diagnostic. It's basically what it is. It's just seeing where we are at this point and what loose ends need to be tightened. And I think Langston Hughes is obviously probably the God-chosen person to make something like this, especially because the poem is so. I think it's very human. It's not, I don't think it's pretentious in any way. It's not like we're trying to use words we would never use ever. Unalienable might be the biggest one. Unalienable, but that's about it. I mean, it's really asking the questions to the American people. Really, have we done what we said we would do? And has everybody been represented? And is everybody welcome here? And and I just thought it was a pleasure to first delve into something that I didn't think I would ever. I mean, I think I've heard the title, but I didn't know much about the poem.
Can you talk about what the poem is, the name of the poem,
definitely.
and also what the gist of it is?
Yeah, so Redeem the Dream is the name of, Let America Be America Again is the actual title of the poem. And it was from 1936. And it starts out by saying, let America be America again. I mean, let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where himself is free. It's this thing where we're starting out this journey of what's supposed to be the actual dream for the American people or people of the America. And then it gets to asking questions after we've figured out who's going to occupy this place called America. all kinds of people will occupy this place. I mean, not just those who were born here, but obviously people had to come here from other places. So it is already set to be a place that welcomes everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so from that, it just asks us, who are you? I'm the Negro, the servant to you all. The other parts of it says, I'm the red man, It kind of goes to this, it's basically taking this opportunity to call these different cultures, people, and all say, all of you are represented in this. This is not just for Black people, okay? I am a Black poet, but this is not just for Black people. This is for all people. One of my favorite parts is it says the free. That's a question mark, not a statement. Free? Who said the free? Not me. I mean, it's kind of, it's like, who is this? And then it just goes on to say, surely not me. For the millions who have nothing for our pay, the people who worked for absolutely nothing, for all the songs we've sung, for all the hopes we've had, for all the flags we've hung. That's talking about the service people. I mean, for all the things we've done, the free.
The question mark.
Yeah, the free. It's making you think. This is the land of the free, really.
I love how this is coming back full circle though, Brandon. Like, just as you're talking and thinking, like, people who aren't watching this on YouTube don't know that you have a sign in the back of your office that says, choose your own path. And you have shared this beautiful path that you chose or didn't choose, or were given the direction from just encounters of people. And to see all of those pathways intersect to bring you to a place where you're able to take these words and bring them to life in music, it is so inspiring and just so incredible to hear all these pieces coming together. So before we keep digging into the words, who picked this poem? Was that part of the Sing Democracy team?
Yes.
And then
yes.
Did you have instructions for like how long to make it or who to write? Like, what's the voicing? What's the form? What's the structure? How did you take such important, meaningful words and put it to music?
Well, I would say, I mean, the Declaration of Independence was a suggestion, and the U.S. Constitution was the other bookend of it. And as I started it, the Declaration of Independence was important. That is very much so important. We needed a little reminder of the text that says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That's sort of we know the words, but it needs to be stated before we go into this sort of response. So I kind of call that the call, and then the response would be, let America be America again. But yeah, Gary and Celia offered this text to me and talked to me extensively about what they thought about it. And as I said earlier, I do a lot of arrangements of spirituals with Black folk music and using maybe gospel elements in this particular very traditional style. So I thought to myself, every part of this cannot be that, obviously, it needs to have different flavors. And that was probably the most challenging. And I don't think that it's a huge secret, but literally, if I said, how long did it take me to write the piece? It literally, to write the piece, just saying starting and stopping, it would be 2 weeks.
Oh.
And to create something in that kind of length of time is not, I mean, there are the breaks, but 2 solid weeks, I said, this has to be done. And I decided that, first of all, it needed to have moments to pause because the poem is a little extensive. And there's certain places I knew I highlighted, and I should have the sheet with me, but I guess it's somewhere over there, but where I would take a little highlighter and I would highlight when I've covered that text and what text needed to be highlighted, what text needed to be repeated, because this means something to me. Like, how can this repeat again, or not just repetition, but maybe bring a certain level of intensity? And what things you can kind of pass by, and those things, and then things in red are things that I completely identify with now, as we still have this question till today. It is very evident that we have not done these things, got it? And we have not understood these parts of the text.
Mm.
But yeah, and so I just thought it's kind of important to me to be able to maybe later on take this and make maybe an octavo from it, like certain separate octavos. So I started with like the first movement is Declaration of Independence. The second movement goes into Let America Be America Again, and that's sort of the beginning of the poem itself. And then the third movement is I Am. And the fourth movement is Who Dreamt? And the fifth movement is The Free, what we just talked about a little bit. And the very last movement is America Again, which is a completely different take on the second movement, but it has some elements of the music from that second a little bit in the drive of the sixth movement. And there's some spoken parts in it. There are a few solo moments in it, kind of short solo moments. But what I also wanted to do was be sure that the piece had some improvisatory moments too.
Okay.
So that soloists who might lead this piece or be a part of this experience, that no one performance will always be the same, you know? And
Nice.
I think that's what will take the piece to a whole nother level. And I do have a dear friend in mind who I think I would love to see a part of the premiere of this full work, and that's Jermaine Manor. He is fantastic. He lives in St. Louis with you, Tina.
He does.
Yes, he does. And he
I'm gonna
is
look him up.
Jermaine Manor. He's fabulous. He's voice musical theater professor at how am I blanking? Not WashU, not St.
Webster?
Webster, yes.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. I knew it was coming. But anyway, he's just the tasteful singer that understands where to push, where to pull, you know?
Nice.
I've worked with him a lot, and we've had great experiences together. And he's just as good of a pianist as he is a singer. So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, definitely. So you have 6 movements. They're broken down based on the text. And you've mentioned that there's improvisatory elements, spoken elements. It's SATB ensemble. What level are you thinking could approach this or stretch for this? Or how do you envision it for a church choir or a school choir? What are you thinking in your head as you're imagining these different choirs?
Well, when Celia and Gary both chatted with me about this, they wanted to be very clear that they wanted this to be accessible. If there are moments of challenge, every piece should, something. So third movement is most challenging, only because it's a little bit more exposed. And it doesn't have the elements of rhythm section. It is very kind of a classical approach to it, very rhythmically driven, because it's more this way than it is this way. It's not about harmony. It's about
vertical versus horizontal.
Yeah. So it doesn't have that kind of fluidity to it. So I think that one is the one that's most exposed, but the motive that once you get it in your ear, you'll realize how it's changed or how it's the same. So that's the only thing I ever think about when I look at it. And so high school level, college level, mass choirs, I just see this with large groups being able to really do this successfully because it is mainly 4 parts 89% of the time. Every now and then there's a little divisi, but it's what we call intuitive harmony. It's not something that play that again, even if you make it up, it'll sound fine, trust me.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's also for rhythm section alternative, that's an accompaniment option, but it also has a chamber orchestra version, and it also has a full orchestra version. So those are your options for anyone who's interested in looking at the piece, because if you're at a university and you have an opportunity to collaborate with your orchestra,
right,
boom, don't pass that chance up. But if you don't have that and you have a chamber ensemble, or maybe this is what your community or your church could afford, boom, here you go. And the chamber is about a 22-member chamber group. And there's places where you as a conductor can look and see, I don't have that, but it won't mess up the harmonies if I keep the piano in. That's very true. And the piano keeps all the harmonies there. And then if piano, bass, and drum is your other option. So, yeah, it's just, and
lots of flexibility.
Yeah, lots of flexibility. I would say, when people say, how long is it? Well,
yeah, that's my next question.
With music of this style, it could be 25 minutes, but it also could be 29 minutes if you a couple extra optional repeats, or because there are moments where repeat as desired because it may get good to you and you may want to stay there for a little bit. Or you may not. You're ready to go. You got a time limit. You got to be out of here. But I also think it's important to consider even maybe for all states because it's within that realm of most programs for an all state is 25 minutes, 28 minutes maximum, and 30 sometimes for very generous spaces. You know that, Emily. I mean, it's. But pieces like this would absolutely work for a 25-minute program. I mean, without applause, you would definitely meet that requirement.
That's good to know because we've had some people asking if this would be appropriate for an all-state performance.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be, and I plan to. I have a few all-states in 26s to propose that this be a part of the concert program. I'm going to take I'm supposed to take a leave in 26, so pending the response of the university, which I think will be favorable. But I plan to do it if some of those places. Yeah.
That's so cool. So the different movements still all has that gospel feel throughout, except that movement 3, which you said was a little bit more classical. Are the tempos varying? What else can we look forward to hearing as we approach this, as we're planning the educational pieces behind it too?
Oh yeah. So one is, I would say I have to be reminded a little bit because I'm getting forgetful.
You also do a lot of really awesome stuff, so please feel free to remind yourself with whatever.
The first movement is definitely a fanfare kind of a thing. It's just get your attention kind of a piece, and it's not super fast, not super slow, but it's pretty open to it's really getting your attention and it's quite accessible. The second movement, as we get into that one has some elements from the first movement, but what I think is so unique, it has more of an R&B feel. Sort of. It kind of has that kind of just a groove to it.
We could do that one at my school. We could do the second movement at my school.
Yes, you could. You could. And
then Emily's on board.
Movement 2. Just let me have movement 2, please.
And then movement 2 goes into like a gospel shuffle kind of a thing, of a compound meter.
Nice.
I could probably get away with that too.
It has another little pop to it, And that one I think has this, I don't know, it kind of builds and it modulates, and it kind of gives you a little bit of hype early, and then it does this, just like the day. It just comes all the way down, and then there's spoken parts to it over some beautiful oohs, and then I Am is another very fanfare kind of a moment of boom, who I am. That's it's not my favorite movement, but it's the one that I think if I saw it, I wouldn't go, oh, that's Brandon Boyd's piece, I could look at all of my pieces and go, oh, it's mine. But this one, it would not be one of those. It would be, it's a very, as you described earlier, very vertical kind of piece with a very, it's very text driven. So it's not about harmonies and all that. And lots of delayed entrances and lots of kind of counterpointy kind of moments.
That'll be so fun to see. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah. And the
fourth, get so excited listening. I want to hear it right now.
The fourth one is really slow in a real kind of laid back groove, just like a really slow groove.
Nice.
And it has that throughout the whole piece. And and most of them start off in unison. Most of everything starts off together, because that was the point that I want to say. That was our goal. I do believe that we really did want these things. We just don't always know how to get what we want, We don't always stay true to what we want. And sometimes that denies your own rights for somebody else to have their rights. And so that was sort of one of the things that every movement needed to have an easy start, and then it goes into maybe some harmony. So this one does have some divisi, but all of it's very intuitive, all supported with piano work under it. So it's like you get reinforcement. It's kind of, coupled together with that. And and then the fourth movement is the free. Yeah. And so that starts with a big solo, and then the choir comes in as a response to that with the same material. And it builds. This one builds like that little, what do you call it? What did golden mean? So this is where we are in the piece, where it's like, oh, okay, we hit this moment. So, because I wasn't quite sure that I wanted the very last movement to be just boom, the absolute loudest and biggest. I wanted it to really be impactful because it really drives on the text and the idea that we the people must redeem the dream. And that's what every part is saying at some point. We must redeem the dream, the land, the mines, the plane, the plant, the rivers. Yeah. So
golden mean. I love when that happens in a piece.
yeah, I was strategic about that because when I got to a certain amount of minutes, because I know Gary knows says, how long is this gonna be? I don't know, And then I start timing it out like, oh shoot, I'm already at 22 minutes and I got another 2 minutes to go. So I kind of shortened the fifth movement a little bit so that the last movement had an optional repeat. And I like that too, because if I'm there and I want to do it one more time. But I would like to give credit to my orchestrators because I don't want ever to lead people to believe that I orchestrated these works. I just composed them, but I hired fantastic orchestrators. One being John Stoddard, who did two of the movements, and the other would be Rick Bassett, let's go back to John Stoddard, who I think is just one of the finest pianists in the world, just phenomenal in every way, and he is just amazing. So he helped with that. Then the other orchestrator, Rick Bassett, who has had a major career on Broadway and worked with Burl Red. That was one of his great mentors, and who found him when he was in grad school, I think at NYU or one of the schools in New York, and just kind of took him in his wings. And he was kind of just the easiest, most amazing man to work with because I think he took it so seriously, what I asked him to do, not just boom, here's your orchestration, tell me if you like it. That was not him at all. I say that about John. And the third person is a graduate of Mizzou, who was not my former student, but it was definitely here during my time. And that's Hans Hareth. And he did the third movement, which I think is just, as someone else described, just delightfully tasteful. I mean, I admire people who can do things that I cannot do. I would not be able to do that at the level in which they could do. Could I have orchestrated? Absolutely, yes. Would I have had some places that I probably need a whole lot of help and didn't have the time? Boom, yes. But I thought it was important that a work like this really be in the hands of people who knew exactly what they were doing. So it's no secret, Gary, and everybody knows. But what they've done, I think, it has enhanced my little tiny ideas into a
That's awesome. I love the message of it being a collaborative process too, because that goes in line with what this whole project is about.
Yeah,
there's not one piece of this project that any one person could have done.
Right.
No. And there again, that reflects our democracy. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's keep the main thing the main thing.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really. I love getting insights into. We've talked about that the composers have done these works and that this part's been turned in and that part's finished and all of that, but it's so fun to hear what your thought process was from the inception of the project all the way through the creation of your music and your contribution, and then the people that you brought alongside you to make it happen and make it as awesome as it's going to be. That's just such a wonderful story.
Oh yeah, I can't believe, and I sat right here to make the entire thing, and I remember every day in July saying, because my grandmother passed on, who was the dearest person, who was just a great human being and a pivotal person too in my life, and I remember not thinking about this at all during that time because we were doing so much with just trying to get this piece, trying to get her estate all settled, and she was adopted grandmother, but nonetheless a grandmother to me in the way that I don't know. Yeah, I'll just say that she was a God-given grandmother because there was no other way to say the things that she helped me do and kind of So when she passed, this took no capacity in my brain, just all of her. So as I finished, I know she was quite proud to say, "You did all that after I died. I'm proud of you."
I love that. Look at, I mean, Brandon, you are dropping so much just gold too, just among, like, you're sharing the process, but also saying so many bigger picture things. Like, choose your path and go for it. You want to do something? Do it. You're not the best person to do something? Ask for help. Get a collaborator. The number of people who let ego get in the way. And now this makes it an even more amazing project because you leaned on people who specialize in it.
And the other thing that I want to point out, you correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but that it was your idea to go ahead and orchestrate these for a full orchestra. I think originally the commission was just chamber orchestra.
Yeah, that's true.
Correct?
Right.
And,
yeah, I think. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. But I was just going to say, I was so grateful to you when I heard that story, because my vision of this is the bigger the better, the more collaboration, the more people that are involved, and especially at a university. Why not? You know, if you've got access to an orchestra, why not involve them?
That's what I thought too. Immediately, I thought a chamber would be great. Yeah, more that. I mean, I would say most people are going to use it. 80% of the buyers, buyers, we know this is a different kind of situation, but 80% of those interested in it will say, "I have this, I don't have that," and then probably a great deal of people will always use piano, bass, and drum. It's much easier to go that route, but if you're at a university or you have that opportunity where there's a collaboration with an orchestra once a year or so, why not? I mean, so I thought, let's do full orchestra, then we'll come back to chamber, because from there you can pull if some harmonics are missing, then you can make some adjustments. But all the orchestrators I work with are so brilliant in a way that every time I saw what they did, I said, well, this won't be hard to make a chamber, because maybe I might be missing the third. Not I'm missing the fifth of the chord. I'm not missing the third of the chord. You know, maybe I might be missing that crunch note, but it's in the piano, or the drums are going during that time. So you might pass by a harmony or something like that. But anytime it's really exposed, like the third movement with the chamber version, is just as delightful, because it has all the essential parts in the first parts, and maybe if you have a second part or not. So yeah, there were no, like, you know, we had 4 horns at first, of course. Now we only have 3, you know, or have 4 trumpets. You know, we don't have 4 trumpets anymore. We have 2, or might have 1, you know. So those kinds of things. I think I just wanted to be as accessible to people as possible.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's so cool to hear the background of this. So will you be able to be involved in any of the rehearsals or the initial premiere? What do you have left to do on the project from here?
Tina?
You're asking me?
What have you done? I've done what the Lord requires of me. You know.
That's what you think, right? Well, I was going to ask, are you doing this at Mizzou?
Well, yeah, in 2026, yeah, definitely. All choirs will do this.
Would you save me a ticket? I want
of course. You know,
I have to see it there.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm hoping that we'll do it. I mean, I know we'll do it somewhere in St. Louis. We've been talking to a few different people that are out in this neck of the woods that I'm hoping will take it on as well. So
yeah, I'm very hopeful that it will be done as much as it can be done. And happy for it to be done. But yeah, we're definitely going to do it with all choirs at Mizzou. Probably be the fall of 26 to wrap up our kind of a concert series, and coupled it with some other piece that's pretty important. We might do a piece that's not coming to my mind right now, whatever. But we might do with that piece. I've been thinking of that. It has democracy in it too, and I can't think of it. Y'all, is it Songs of Democracy? That's
You'll think about it later.
Norman Della Joglio. Yeah, that's probably. So
is that you said it's called Songs for Democracy?
I think it's Songs of
a song. Okay. Is it a multi-movement piece? Okay. I think a group out here did it last summer, if I'm
Okay,
not
yeah.
mistaken. So, okay.
Well, while you're looking that up and we're chitting chatting, if
Sorry.
you are listening and you want to be one of the choirs that is performing this, not in St. Louis or at Mizzou, you just simply pop over to the website, singdemocracy250.org, and there's an application and there's a process there. And if selected, you get access to all this music for free, just as long as you do the performance during the allocated time. Am I right, Tina? Did I get all that
You're
correct?
right. Yeah. As long as you are committed to performing the full program, which is the Redeem the Dream piece that we were just talking about with Brandon. The second piece is by Michael Bussewitz-Quarm, and it's called Us, which means both us collectively and the US. And those two pieces together are probably about just over an hour and 10 minutes at most. And then we also ask that people perform the Star Spangled Banner and Lift Every Voice and Sing. So if you're committed to doing that full program with your choir, the only other stipulation is that it's between March 1st to December 31st of 2026 that you do your performance, and you have to just be a nonprofit organization in America. So the bar for participation is very low. If you do decide you want to perform these new works as part of your season repertoire, we will provide you the scores for free. So it's a very simple application. There's really nothing you're competing for. You just have to let us know about your organization and commit to those few requirements. And
Which is so exciting.
we just want as many people in America performing this as possible.
So to wrap up, Brandon, this has been so awesome. I love hearing your story, and I can't wait to see you. I think the last time I saw you was we were doing something together, but you were talking about common sounds that you would hear in spirituals and what we can listen for as we're teaching them. And it's just amazing to see all the things that you're doing. And you've shared some really awesome life insight, but I always give the guests an opportunity, the one thing that really matters that you want the listener to walk away from this episode with. It can be something we've talked about it or something totally different. The one thing that matters.
Oh, the one thing that matters is that people matter and relationships matter. And it is not for any personal gain, because that's not the purpose of being a kind human being, but you just never know where that person can help you. You can help them. You never know who's going to be on the other side of the table. And that's why I think that's just being a good human. I often tell people, I'm probably not good at telling you to be a Christian, okay? I might not be good at that. Some people are, but I don't even think that Christianity is about some of the things we even talk about, but it's religion and all of the things that relate to that is to just make sure that we can live more harmoniously in this country, in this world. We can live together by treating each other as best as we possibly can, even through conflict. We can always find a way to be respectful and loving. And I find that that is one of the reasons that religion and Christianity and all the other things are brought to us, is to bring us together. There's nothing about it that's supposed to be dividing us from people. It's supposed to be bringing us together. And how do you do that? By doing things together. And I hope that you and many other people do these works together. And so I hope that that would be the one thing that I hope that anybody could take away, is just be a good human being, because that's what we were set out to do. And if you see something out of line, and if you can make it better, do it.
I love it. Oh my gosh, this was great, Brandon. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Brandon. You guys were awesome.
Thank you,
Emily.
All right. You ready to be kind? To get more people singing? To be a part of this really cool project? I know I am. And I can't wait to hear what you're doing. As you heard Brandon share the just amazing path that led him to where he is today, whatever you're doing, friends, you're doing the right thing. And I'm just so impressed with how we are getting more people singing right now. So, in case no one has told you today, you matter. We all know that music matters, especially this really awesome Sing Democracy 250 project. And I'll see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast.